guess this is video one of some number of videos. I'm not really sure how long it's going to go on the filling of the dewar when the dewar is empty. And by empty we mean less than 35%. So one of the preliminary things to keep in mind is that the liquid nitrogen pump inside the dewar, maybe you can record me doing this, right? So the liquid nitrogen pump sits in the dewar like this, right? And so in order for the liquid nitrogen pump to pump liquid nitrogen out to the system, the pump itself needs to be immersed in some like minimum amount of liquid, right? So that minimum amount for the pump to be fully immersed, or for the motor and the impeller of the pump to be fully immersed in the liquid nitrogen, is when the level meter is reading 35%. So the minimum is 35%. Whenever you have less than 35%, if you're off by a percentage or two, then you don't need to go through this whole procedure. You can simply just add liquid nitrogen. But if you're less than, say, 30% or 25%, you need to go through the full procedure that we're about to explain right now. So let's just put the cutoff at 30%. So if you're less than 30%, you need to go through the procedure that we're about to outline in the next couple videos. So the first thing is to, can you come over here, is to basically ensure that the level meter is less than 35% here. So try to zoom in on that and make sure you can get that 35%, right? Or sorry, that 3.3% here. So as you can see, we're way below that limit. So we need to go ahead and go through the full procedure for filling up the dewar. This procedure is important because when the dewar is empty, well, when the dewar is less than 20%, and when it's on the order of 3, 5, 1% or so, it's really uncertain as to how much liquid nitrogen is actually in there. So the whole system is pretty much warm, and there's the chance that you can lock up and seriously damage the liquid nitrogen pump with moisture. So basically what happens is, if you don't follow the procedure that we're about to outline, when you have moisture inside the system, then as soon as you start to put liquid nitrogen into the little dewar, and the impellers on the liquid nitrogen pump start to get cold, what happens is that moisture freezes over, and then you run a serious risk of damaging the impeller or freezing the pump up, etc. So a few things to keep in mind is less than 30%, you want to follow this procedure. And you also want to read the OptiDrive E2 by Invertech, the VFD manual, before you actually go through the procedure that's about to be outlined here. So on the next video, we'll go through how to start running the pump in manual mode. Essentially what needs to happen is you run the pump in manual mode such that the pump is already spinning before you start pouring liquid nitrogen into the system. That ensures that, one, if there is any moisture in there, it doesn't lock up the pump, and two, if there is moisture in there and it starts to build up anywhere near the pump is already spinning, and you have a pretty good chance of just breaking that moisture up into little particles before it becomes a big ice ball on the pump. So we'll talk about that in the next video.